Hey guys, Shadylikeatree here, and welcome into my Fallout 4 review. I know this video is a few weeks late, but I've been playing the crap out of the game. I wanted to complete the story before I did this and make it past level 30. I have certainly done that, but let's get into the meat of things here. For those of you that are new to my channel or don't understand these reviews, I have a certain structure that I follow to ensure that you get the most out of this review. I will explain my background a little bit for those of you who are new. I will explain my experience with Fallout, my playtime, and kind of how I played the game and kind of the way I played the game, because this is sort of a game that kind of leaves it up to you how you play. Then I give a brief overall opinion, share a couple thoughts kind of off the top, and then I get into a spoiler-free section, which is completely spoiler-free. You do not need to worry about that. I talk about the good and the bad, and then after that we have a giant spoiler alert, which you literally cannot miss. My friend Worm created that for me many years ago, and we used it in The Last of Us, and ever since then I've been using that. Then I will talk about the story mode and give some spoilers, ranging from mild to extreme, both good and bad on that front. I will also talk about things I would have done differently throughout this video, but feel free to click away if you've not yet bought the game or you're considering buying the game for yourself. So let's go ahead and get into it. I played it on PS4. I've never ever played a Fallout game before. This is my very first one. I've not even logged into other games. My friends have all said it's a great game. I should definitely try it, and I totally took their advice, and I'm glad I did. I've only really played a couple of hours of Skyrim, and I absolutely hated it just because of the crappy save system that was in that game. And that's really it for Bethesda games that I'm aware of. I don't think I've played anything else. I definitely haven't played any Fallout before. My current level is 47 in the game. I'm almost 48. I do plan on continue playing after this review, so if any of this changes, I will update in the description. It didn't seem like it, but I have 3 days and 1 hour of playtime. I have, if you do the math, it's 48, 68, 72, 73 hours of playtime in the game. So I've played it quite a bit in the 3 or so weeks that it's come out. I went with a starting build of high intelligence, kind of medium everything else, low agility and luck. So I started, I think, with like a 8 or a 9 intelligence. I think I started out with a 4 or 5 strength, a 3 endurance, maybe a 4 perception, and then everything else I think was a 3. I basically went intelligence so I could access everything right away, and I developed my science and hacking perks. I developed my armor building and weapon mod perks. I also developed my carrying perk, because I like to fast travel when over encumbered, because I'm a guy who likes to go in, get everything no matter its value, then take it to the guy, sell it for whatever it caps I can get out of it, and then be done with it. That's the kind of guy I am. I'm always picking up everything, even if I may or may not need it, may or may not be worth anything, but I'm always picking it up. So, my overall opinion of this game, it is a great game. If you're into an open world experience, I highly recommend you get this game. It does have its issues, but it is a solid, great game. Not incredible, not a 10 out of 10. It's not on the level of The Last of Us or an Uncharted because of its bugs, but it's pretty close. It's Game of the Year consideration. It would be hands down Game of the Year if not for some of the issues that will come later in this video that I will explain to you later. Kind of a good example of this is I didn't realize I'd logged 73 hours into the game. When I was writing my script, I thought, oh, maybe I've played a day. Maybe. I was thinking that was a little long, but I was surprised when I resaved the game and took my total tally time that it was, in fact, 3 days and 1 hour. That was surprising. So let's get into what the game does really well. First of all, there are a lot of things to do. There are a lot of ways to play and a lot of things to do within those ways to play. So a lot of my friends haven't even started the main story yet. They've just been doing side missions, building up their character. You can do those side missions. You can repeat some side missions. You can go rescue this settler here. You can go rescue these people there. You can just explore and find all the locations first. You can do the main story, which is kind of what I did. I did a little bit of side missions early on, and then I kind of did the main story to start out with, and then I found some things and did some things, and then I did a bunch of side missions, built up my sanctuary, then I did more main story, then I did more side missions, and then I did more main story and more side missions, and then I finished the main story, and here we are today. You can also choose to just explore and not do any side missions, not do any main stories, just walk around the wasteland as you please. It's a really weird and interesting, difficult way to do it, and you can kind of have a fun experience doing that. And as I said, you can focus all your time on building up your settlements and getting caps and doing that sort of stuff. There are a number of different ways to play. You can have a low intelligence, high strength build. You can have high charisma and low luck or perception. You can have high luck and agility and low intelligence. You can be dumb. You can be smart. You can be anything you want. And it really changes the way you play, and kind of based on your level of each special affects the perks you can get, and you can kind of tailor to your style. If you're a sneaky person, you can make your agility, intelligence, and perception really high. Or if you're like me and you want to be a collector, you can have strength so you can have more carry weight. If you want to have intelligence so you can fix things and do certain other things, and have higher mods and better science and things like that, you can do that. The characters in this game are really different. I'm not going to say any names or say anything about who they are until after the spoiler warning, but they are really different characters. They all have different benefits. They all act differently, have different weapons. They all like different things when you have your dialogue options. They're all really different, and you can tell that when you have a certain partner with you, how it changes how you play and kind of what you do. On the same token, the enemies are all vastly different. There are things like death claws that are really powerful and deadly. There are things like super mutants. There are the raiders, the synths, the yada yada yada. All of these things are different, and they have different weaknesses and different strengths, and you have to learn what works against what, how to take out a specific target, and you kind of have to some degree plan. And you also have to save a lot, because you're going to fail, especially early on. I did a lot being new to the franchise. I'm sure some people in the past have more experience and kind of know what is what and how to take it down. The setting is absolutely incredible. As many of you know, I go to Boston for PAX East almost every year. I love the city of Boston. I love the idea. There are real life locations in it. You can go to Fenway Park. You can go to Bunker Hill. You can see the Lexington Concord. You can go to Salem and go to the Witch Museum is a location. You can go to the harbor. You can do all of these different locations that have a historical and non-historical theme. And I think that kind of Revolutionary War era period really lends itself to the idea of Fallout and this kind of post-apocalyptic wasteland, because in a lot of aspects America was a wasteland before people got here, not in the sense that it was dangerous, but in the sense that there was nothing here. So you kind of have that balance of things that kind of mimic history a little bit, if that made any sense. I should also note that the Revolutionary War is my favorite time in history. On my channel are countless videos of me playing various games with settings during the American Revolution. Assassin's Creed 3, for example, is my favorite Assassin's Creed game because you get to partake in the Battle of Lexington Concord and Bunker Hill and so on and so forth. And you get to be in these places. You get to go to Boston and New York and all kinds of places like that. The controls are really easy to pick up. It takes a little bit, but if you just sit down with it within the first hour, you've got all of the controls, you know what you're doing, and you know how to play the game, and it's not difficult to pick up like other games. It's not twitchy like other games. Everything has a purpose, everything has a reason, and although I wish that the grenade system was a little different, a little bit better, because I did blow myself up a couple times with it, I'd say all in all the controls are really great. They lend themselves to a first, third-person shooter exploration game like Fallout. The Pip-Boy on top of that is incredibly easy to use once you get the hang of it. You can auto-equip things to your D-pad and have sim packs, have rad packs, have your favorite weapons on hand, and you don't have to go into the Pip-Boy. But the Pip-Boy is very useful in finding radio stations to listen to, in finding a number of different other things that you can use it for. You can use it to check your armor, add armor, see your special, level up. All kinds of good uses. I really like it. It's really easy to get the hang of it. Another thing in this game, kind of under the lots to do, there's a lot of weapon and armor customization in this game. You can take a gun that, at its basic level may not be very powerful, but for instance, I'll give you the laser pistol. My current laser pistol does, I think, 64, 69 damage, something like that, per shot, because it's maxed out, because I have all the things maxed out. But at the beginning levels, that same pistol is like a 26 damage. So the weapons scale, so you can have a weapon benefit that you may get early on in the game. There's a weapon you get early on in the game that's really useful, and you can use that as your weapon throughout the game, and you can kind of scale the weapon as you get more skills and as enemies get tougher. There comes a point in time during the game where I found myself with my laser pistol one-shotting raiders and various enemies because my pistol was so powerful, and I was in an area where they were pretty much low level. Wasn't going to find a lot, but I had to go do a side mission or something. So I found that to be relatively nice, that, hey, I'm way better, more experienced than all these nerds, and I just annihilate them. There are generally a lot of different features, some new, some old, to this game that really make the game stand out, especially the sanctuary building. There's some good and some bad to that. I'll talk about that a little bit more later. But there are some cool things that the game does to add to the franchise for people who have come before it, but also not kind of leave new people like me in the dust when doing it. So that's what I have as far as the good non-spoilery things for you. We're going to get into the bad now. First and foremost, there are a ton of graphical issues with the game. For instance, anytime you use a mini nuke, the graphics don't show up very well or show up appropriately. They kind of resemble PlayStation 1 graphics in a way, and it's just not polished. And it's just enough to take you out of the mode and realize, hey, I'm not in the real world, I'm in a video game. And that's something that can have a really negative impact on your experience and your immersion in the game. Kind of similarly to that, I did experience several crashes. This is the first and only game that has crashed on me in PS4. It crashed on me 3 times, essentially blue screened my PlayStation. I had to restart the game and restart my system a couple times. I think in total it crashed 4 times during various missions. There were also numerous reported freezes that other people experienced, including elevator glitches and power armor glitches, and some minor stuff, but also some major game-breaking stuff that you have to basically reload a save point. Another problem I had with it was the side mission accuracy, and I'll use that kind of in air quotes. Some settlers in your settlements, which are scattered all over the map, react to things that would affect other settlements first, and react to things that would never happen. They would be clear on the other side of the map, and oh gosh, these raiders are going to come kill us if you don't stop them. No, they're not. Why would they do that? That makes no sense. So that was something that kind of pulled me again out of the realism, out of the depth of the game. Another thing that really bothers me about the game is that the settlers in your settlements are constantly nagging you. You can't catch a break. Oh, my friend got kidnapped. Oh, there's always somebody complaining about these ghouls or these raiders or this, that, or the other. And again, as I said just now, it kind of pulls you out of the immersion of the game. You constantly have to deal with these people's problems, and they're constantly bugging you and nagging you about their stupid friend who should have never left the settlement in the first place, getting kidnapped by super mutants when your defense is obviously a 98. That just doesn't happen. And again, it's also repetitive missions. A lot of them are the same. You have to go to some place, rescue the settler, leave the place, come back, report your success to somebody else, and then someone else bothers you while you're doing all of that and saying, hey, I need you to do this. And if you fail the missions, it doesn't really matter, but you feel like you've kind of let people down and you lose more settlers that way. Yeah, and again, you should never have to rescue people who ever leave Sanctuary. Like, come on, people, don't leave. Another issue I ran into was character blocking. There was a number of occasions where I'd get stuck in a place because I had 2 people with me, or I had somebody in the way, or a dead body was in the way, and you couldn't walk through them, and it just happened a lot, and it was annoying. And sometimes you'd get pushed out of the way. Like one specific time I was sneaking around, and my partner who I was with pushed me into a doorway, and then I got seen by a super mutant, and it wrecked my house. It wrecked my face. It destroyed me almost instantly, and there was almost nothing I could do about it. And that was just really frustrating. Another thing, there's also a lot of repetitive dialogue. There's this one guy who keeps talking, literally every time you do the mission, he says the exact same thing the exact same way. I'd like a little more varying. I mean, I know I can't ask for a whole lot because of the limitations of the hardware, but can I get at least 2, 3, 4 lines so I don't hear the same thing over and over again? It's sort of become my mimicking catchphrase of this one particular character. It's just how it is, I guess. The thing that really kind of bothered me about this game is that whenever I would go on Twitter or Facebook or anything and talk about the game and talk about, some of the game's shortcomings, everyone would say, oh, it's just a Bethesda game. You need to expect that. But to me, I want a game to work, and just because this is a air quote Bethesda game, and just because they do this or do that, or they're good at this and they make a good game, doesn't mean I should expect and demand better of my game makers. Just because it's a Bethesda game, just because it's big, just because it's open world, doesn't mean that it should glitch, doesn't mean that it should crash, doesn't mean it should have graphical issues. Now, it's 3 weeks later, and there's not been a single patch for any of their issues. I'm sure that they're trying to focus on getting some support for PC, because that's where the majority of their people play their games, on PC. But at the same time, you should expect it. Granted, I will give them the game is completed, but you should expect a polished, completed game from a AAA title these days. There should be no excuses for this. Now, granted, if this were, 1998 and we didn't have the internet and we didn't have, massive updates being sent to our systems, this would it would have been passable. It would have most certainly been a great game of the year worthy, as opposed to a lot of the other stuff that comes out where you have to have a day one patch and you have to have 500,000 add-ons and updates and whatnot. But I just demand more, and I don't want to take the excuse that, oh, this is a Bethesda game, you're going to have that. That's not a valid excuse, and it's bullshit, frankly, that people are willing to kind of just accept these shortcomings of the game as part of the game. Because I don't accept any shortcomings as a part of a game that I spend my hard-earned money on, and while it's a great game, I just want better, and I'm not going to take it's a Bethesda game or it's a Fallout game as an excuse. Just fix it.
Spoiler warning. Everything will be told. Everything.
Alright, everyone, so that was your spoiler alert, your spoiler warning. Everything from here on out will contain spoilers, and if you are still here, now is your very, very last chance to leave before I start spilling secrets of the main story and the characters that kind of is important. Starting off with the story mode good stuff, the stuff that I really liked. I loved both the characters of Piper and Paladin Dance. They were primarily the two companions I went with. I took Piper with me on main story missions. I took Dance with me anytime I felt like I would need extra firepower. He has a really powerful rifle as well as power armor. So that to me was kind of whenever I thought I might go into a sticky situation or a place that might have death claws or might have something that was really hard to defeat, or if I were going, down into the glowing sea, which is where the bomb dropped, I would take him with me just for extra backup and firepower and distraction, because Piper's little pistol doesn't do a whole lot of damage. About 3/4 of the way through the story, there's a dream sequence. For those of you who have already played it, you know what I'm talking about. It's when you go to the memory den in Good Neighbor, and you get the synth mine compared with both yours and Nick Valentine, and then you kind of go through those dream sequences, and that's a really interesting way to get into the Kellogg character and learn more about the guy who took your son and who you actually killed not too long ago. It didn't have the emotional impact I think that a lot of people would have wanted, but I still thought it was well executed mechanically, and kind of it fit into the story and didn't seem too outlandish compared to kind of everything else you do in the world. And so it was a great idea. It kind of changed the pace of the game up a little bit and kind of really kind of let you get to the Institute without having to like jump through loopholes and whatnot. It was a good storytelling technique, which is something that I think the rest of the game really lacked, but we'll talk more about that later on. The opening induction of the game was incredible. When you first spawn in, before you've even created your player, there's this short film that plays talking about war and how war never changes. It was incredible, like when you first play it, and then to come back to it after you've beaten the story and you've kind of air quotes finished the game, as it were, it's really a testament to their storytelling ability. Now, I think, as I said, though, in the story mode battle, I'll talk about some of their shortcomings in the story, but I think that those two techniques, the dream sequence and the opening introduction, were both things that were really great and things that I would point to as a highlight of, say, that was good writing. Whoever came up with that was a good writer and had good story to tell. You get power armor right away almost, which I thought was really great, and it kind of helps you acclimate to the game. You face a Deathclaw right away. Again, that helps you acclimate to the game. So when you're going into the Minutemen to rescue the Minutemen, I think it's the first or second mission. You go to the the way I did it is I kind of just did the first mission. I left the vault, and then once you leave the vault, you find your house and you find Codsworth, and then you set up Sanctuary, yada yada yada. He and you go to the Red Rocket truck stop. You meet Dogmeat, and then you meet the head of the Minutemen. I forget his name off the top of my head. I should be embroidered into my head because he never shut up about rescuing people. But you go to, I think it's Lexington or Concord, I forget which, I think it's Lexington, and you go to the Historic Museum there, and then he informs you there's power armor on the roof from a downed Brotherhood of Steel plane. You can go up there, get in the power armor. I think it's a full set of T-45, basic T-45 if memory serves, and there's a minigun on there as well that you can use to take out the Deathclaw, which I know some people, I'm not going to say who had some issues with the first Deathclaw, but it absolutely had no issues with it at all. It kind of made it easy mode to just stand there on the roof and fire at the Deathclaw and blow up cars and let the Raiders put a little bit of bullets into it and whatnot. But I think getting both of those right away, kind of learning about Deathclaws and how deadly and powerful they are, while also having a power armor and knowing what that can do for you, if you've got fusion cores for it, is really helpful and beneficial to you. The thing that got to me too was that each faction has sort of a different mythology. You know, the Brotherhood of Steel is all military, all service, all following orders, doing as you're told, not questioning the man. The Institute is all about progressing humanity through science, and, you know, no science rock shall not be uncovered. You know, we're going to do whatever we got to do to be the betterment of community, and we think sense are the right way. The Minutemen are all about just helping people and helping the Commonwealth and fixing problems. They're kind of like a small village police force in a way. And then there's the Railroad, which I didn't get into their story a whole lot because I kind of wanted to get on with the main story, so I got to them. I followed the Freedom Trail, got to them, and then like did one mission with them, and then I betrayed them by killing them with the Brotherhood of Steel. No faction was right, and that was something I think I liked. There wasn't a clear, at least to me, there wasn't a clear winner or a clear good guy. Everyone has their, as I said, their shortcomings. Every faction has the things they do right. It's just who you want to side with. For me, I sided with the Brotherhood of Steel because I felt like the Institute had been kidnapping people, and I thought that wasn't right, and they'd purposely been kidnapping people. It's not like, oh, this guy wandered into our facility. No, they had been kidnapping people. Yet, on the same hand, I think the Brotherhood was too firm in their anti-synth stance. I think the Institute was bad and did need to be eliminated, but at the same time, you didn't need to exile Paladin Dance. You didn't need to kill every synth ever and hunt them down like dogs and murder them in the street. I kind of think that they were people on some level, especially dealing with Nick Valentine out of Diamond City and his detective agency. But on another hand, I kind of see what they're coming for. They don't trust things, not birth, but that doesn't make it any more or less right. And so I think that the Brotherhood kind of had a thing. I thought the Institute were a bunch of tinfoil wearing hat people from what little interaction I had with them. They just sort of seemed very out there. And I wish I would have had more time with them, but to me they just seemed like tinfoil hat people, and I didn't want to support that cause. They were very hidden, very secretive, and they were basically lying to people, and I didn't like that either. So that's why I went with the Brotherhood of Steel. I kind of wish I'd gone with the Minutemen, but I didn't really know how to do it at the time to kind of go with the Minutemen, because I think they would have had the most, you know, kind of beneficial outcome. I think they would have just taken out the Institute and not killed the Brotherhood of Steel or killed the Railway. I think they would have left them be, which I think is the ending I would have liked. But it is what it is, and I can't go back and change it now. I can just replay the game if I choose. So let's talk about what I didn't like about the story mode. There were a lot of things, so I'll just get right to it. The story could have been a little bit longer, I thought. I felt like, even though I liked the dream sequence, I felt like that cut out a lot of exposition and a lot of just kind of meat to the kind of the second act to the story. I thought there could have been maybe a little bit more there. Give me, still to do the dream sequence, but maybe lead up to, the final confrontation. Maybe a little bit more. I had a problem with the final confrontation. It wasn't as big as I wanted it to be. I mean, it was fairly big for Fallout, and what I had experienced in Fallout being kind of a wasteland, being kind of me and another person. It was literally an army and a giant robot, Liberty Prime. But it could have been bigger. I've played the Call of Duties. I've played The Last of Us. I've played all these other games where the ending, it felt like you were in the middle of something huge, and at the end of it, you came out on top and it felt worthwhile. That final battle with Liberty Prime was pretty much a cakewalk, and it didn't feel difficult at all, and it didn't feel... I didn't struggle, and I felt like I should have had to struggle a little bit more. I did have to kind of teleport and warp around a lake because Liberty Prime walked across a lake, which was neither easy or fun for me, so I didn't do that. I kind of warped and kind of waited on it, but it just felt a little lackluster, and yeah, it didn't gel with me. I wish there was more, and I wish it was a kind of a bigger oomph to kind of get it over, to make that victory feel a little bit less empty. Because when I finished the game, I'm like, that's it? I mean, we defeated them. There's no blowback. There's no the world is on fire. There's no none of this. It's over? Like, it was that easy? Like, why did we do this weeks ago? Kind of a deal. Why didn't we crush them? And it just didn't feel heavy enough. I hated the ending. As I said, I wanted a bigger battle, but also I hated the fact that you had to, if you went with the Brotherhood, you had to kill the Institute. I felt like or you had to kill the Railroad. I felt like the Railroad and the Brotherhood of Steel agreed on some things, and I feel like you could have come to the table and said, look, the Institute is bad. We need to get rid of them. We're willing to give up this if you're willing to help us destroy them. I felt like it was like just not plausible. The Institute was supposed to be this big bad, sciencey, over the top mumbo jumbo, but as the Brotherhood of Steel, a half dozen of us walked in there with our guns blazing and our cocks out, and we destroyed. And so I just felt like there could have been a more meshing of factions. We could have had the Minutemen. We could have had the Brotherhood of Steel. I would have liked it better if everyone would have united against the Institute, or if the Institute, if you chose to go with their ending instead of the Brotherhood of Steel and you chose to destroy the Brotherhood of Steel, you, with the Institute, partner with, say, the Minutemen and the Railroad, and you destroy the Brotherhood of Steel, or something like that. I think those would have been a couple of different endings, and I don't know if those are possible endings. Everything I've seen leads to the fact that there are really two endings. There's an ending of the Institute, with the Institute, where you blow up the Brotherhood of Steel ship and you kill all of the Institute or the Railroad people. I keep doing that. And then there's the other ending, which is the Minutemen, the Brotherhood of Steel, or the Railroad blow up the CIT, the Commonwealth Institute of Technology, which is, I'm pretty sure, supposed to represent like MIT. No matter who you pick, if you pick the Railroad, if you pick the Brotherhood or the Minutemen, you get the same ending. It's just which factions are alive. So if you get the Minutemen, then the other two factions are alive. But if you get the Brotherhood of Steel, the Railroad is not alive. If you pick the Railroad, the Brotherhood of Steel is not alive. And it was basically kind of the same dialogue along those lines after the ending. And I could have done with more. I think finding that out kind of really turned me off to the game from that point forward, as to I don't want to replay it because I feel like I got all out of the story I can, and it's not worth rebuilding my character from level 1. I guess the last thing I wanted to say kind of under this bad section is that it left me unfulfilled. And I would have liked a story that left me more fulfilled. I was talking with some of my friends, and we were basically just kind of shooting the breeze and saying, it really was unfulfilling, and it kind of sucked. I would have liked a lot more. That's all I really have to say about that. I just would have liked a lot more out of the story, and I could have been happier with that. Anyway, guys, thank you very much for watching. This has been my Fallout 4 review in its entirety. I certainly hope you liked this review. If you did, Please leave a like. Let me know in the comment section what you thought. Share your thoughts on this game if you've played it. I'm curious to see some other opinions other than the people I talk to on a regular basis. And maybe we can talk about this game and talk about some of the things I've said in this video. But anyway, guys, thanks again for watching DFTBA. Remember the Alamo, and I'll leave in the description some of my other reviews if you'd like to see some of those. Take care, guys. I'll see you next time.